One of the most important things to a NASCAR race is actually the racetrack itself. Unlike other sports, the venue is very important for NASCAR racing because it determines which drivers are going to do good in the race and which drivers will struggle, as well as whether or not the race is going to be entertaining or it's just going to suck all around. And throughout the years of NASCAR, we have seen many racetracks. We have seen super speedways, intermediate tracks, short tracks, road courses, hell, even some dirt races have reappeared on the NASCAR schedule. Which begs the question, which tracks are truly the best and which tracks are the worst for the sport, as well as just to watch all around? Well, today we are going to be doing a tier list of all the NASCAR racetracks that we see in the 2023 schedule, as well as some past racetracks that all of us remember and maybe miss dearly. Maybe. So I figured let's make a tier list and have a little fun with it. Let's see which tracks we think are the best and which tracks are the worst. Before we get started, guys, make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. If you guys like more content like this, please let me know. And also, if you like the narrative videos, that is awesome. I really love making those for you guys, so thank you so much. We're at almost 5,000 subscribers. That's crazy in a year. So thank you guys. I appreciate all of you so much. But without further ado, let's dive in. So as you guys can see, we have 6 tier lists here. We're going to have the best ones at the legendary track. These are the ones that just scream NASCAR. Whenever you think about NASCAR, these are the tracks that come up to mind. Great tracks. These tracks provide great racing all the time, and you really enjoy it when you see them pop up on the schedule. Good tracks, they provide decent races. Not maybe phenomenal races, but hey, it's fine. They deserve a spot on the schedule. Okay tracks, these are ones that we think are all right, but at the same time, we wouldn't really miss them dearly if they went off the schedule. Should not be scheduled. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. It should not be on any of the NASCAR schedules for any of the top 3 divisions and should never existed. This track should have been demolished from the very beginning when they even thought of it. Should never existed at all and never, ever should have been in NASCAR. So, pretty straightforward. We got a lot of racetracks here, so I'm going to try to make this really quick. I did it kind of alphabetized. I think I got some things a little mixed up here, but who cares? Who cares? We're just going to get right into it. First, starting off with Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, Atlanta Motor Speedway is one of those tracks that is very important to NASCAR because it used to be the championship race in the 90s. With that being said, the track did get older going into the late 2010s and didn't really provide great racing. Now we got it as a super speedway track. To be honest with you, it's the weakest out of the 3. So I don't think it needs to be taken off the schedule by any means. I still think back then it used to be a great racetrack. But as of right now with the super speedway, I think it drops down a level and we'll just keep it at the good track for now. But who knows, maybe the racing there will get a lot more phenomenal as time goes by. Let's hope so. Next up, we're already getting emotional here because we have Auto Club Speedway. You know, an amazing 2-mile racetrack and provided great restarts, great racing all around, and they're going to take it from us. They're going to turn into a short track. This is something we wanted for a very long time, but why would you make it Auto Club? Why? It was so good! With that being said, I think this is a great racetrack. It provided good races every single time we were there. Yeah, there could have been some snoozers here and there, but when I remember Auto Club, I remember it just being action-packed from beginning to end. So maybe it's just a nostalgia talking, and hopefully the short track brings anywhere close to the same excitement as a 2-mile racetrack. But I want to put it at a great track. I really love seeing this track on the schedule. Bristol Motor Speedway, there is no second guessing this one. This is a legendary track. This track has provided great races throughout the years of NASCAR, and even to this day in the Xfinity Series and Truck Series, there's still great racing. Cup Series still trying to figure out a short track package, but how can you hate Bristol? It is just a phenomenal venue. Fans love it, drivers love it, it's crazy. What more can you ask? Now let's look at the opposite side of that and let's look at the Bristol Dirt Race. This thing, get this the hell out of here. This should have never existed. It took away a precious Bristol race from us. I don't mind them giving an opportunity for the dirt race, but did they have to do Bristol? Did they really? I don't think so, but they still wanted to do it, and they're just like, hey, NASCAR fans, you want this? Well, we're going to take away something you love. Oh my God! Why would you do such a thing? I don't think this track is going to be returning in the 2024 season, and I'm really not offended by any shape or form if it doesn't, because to be honest with you, it was a good attempt, but in all honesty, it should have never existed, especially at Bristol. Now we move on to Daytona International Speedway. Again, this is another legendary track. If it wasn't for this track, NASCAR would be nowhere near the same popularity as it is today. Without it, I mean, we've had some of the greatest races of all time. It has the biggest race of the season, the Daytona 500. If 1979 never existed, NASCAR would have just been a South sport for probably many decades to come. But thanks to that exciting race, it led to NASCAR just going nationwide, and in some cases worldwide. And it's really thanks to this track. This track should never disappear from the schedule, and I don't think it ever will, and it will always qualify as a legendary track in my eyes. Next up, we got Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and I mean, this track was okay. I mean, the finishes were cool. You got to admit, there were some cool finishes there. Chase Elliott taking out Austin Dillon, the Cole Custer and John Hunter Nemechek finish, the one with Armand Quiroga or something like that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to screw up names, guys. Either way, there were some good finishes there, but other than that, I mean, this track was all right. I mean, if it's on the schedule, great. If not, it doesn't really bother me because we have so many road courses as it is. Maybe one day they'll make a return to it, but there's another Canadian track I would rather see instead. The Busch Light Clash. You know, one of the most interesting racetracks that they have ever introduced to the schedule. Now, I'm going to say this. As a non-expedition race, I think it's actually a good track. It's a lot of fun. It's chaotic. It's exactly what we need as far as an expedition race goes. And I truly believe that. If this was a points-paying race, I would hate this track because it's nowhere close to the same as any of the other racetracks. You can't even put the full field on there. So with that being said, I'm going to put it as an okay track, because if it was to become a points-paying race, I would be upset. As long as it stays as a non-points-paying race, I think it's a good track. So let's just keep it at okay, because it could very well be a terrible racetrack if NASCAR decides to move forward with this becoming a points race, which I don't think they're going to do anytime in the future. Charlotte Motor Speedway, that's a great track. You know, for a while, people may have considered it only a good track. And that's just for the simple fact that we need it on the schedule since it's basically NASCAR's home base. So you have to have a track at its home base, obviously. But the racing has gotten a lot more exciting here at Charlotte, which made many people question why we got rid of the second mile-and-a-half race, which, by the way, that deserves to be in A tier as well, the Charlotte Roval. We'll talk about that in a second. But Charlotte, definitely with the next-gen car, it has really benefited that racetrack. It's provided some really good racing, and for a 600-mile event, that's really tough to do. So bravo to this track really just getting back to its form with its crown jewel event. I think it's a great track. But I love the Roval. I really do. I know people want to see two races at Charlotte, but that Roval provides such chaotic races. If there's any road course that should be in the playoffs, the Roval is the best option because it's just crazy. It is challenging. These drivers get put to the ultimate test. I love it. I really do love it. Last year, the race may have not been nearly as exciting as ones we've seen in the past, but the next-gen car was still trying to figure things out, especially at road courses. I'm still putting it as a great track as well. Overall, Charlotte, no matter which track it goes to, it's being great. Oh boy, this is a sad one. Chicagoland Speedway. So many people miss this track, and they really do, and I understand why. It was pretty unique, and it provided decent races. I'm going to put it as good. I truly thought it was a good racetrack, and for them to take it off the schedule was kind of shocking to me because there was a lot of other mile-and-a-half tracks that provided way worse racing than Chicagoland. But at the same time, do you really remember any other race minus the Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch finish? That race was spectacular, but other than that, was there really any phenomenal finishes? I mean, yeah, you had some storylines here and there, but that was about it. Nothing really stood out to the track, so that's why I'm not considering it a great track. But by all means, I always felt like it deserved a spot in the schedule. So I don't know if they'll ever return to this track. In fact, I think they got part of the track already sold to a different investor, which is never a good sign for a track. Don't quote me on that exactly. But Chicagoland, it should have stayed on the schedule because it's a good track. The Chicago Street Race, that has not happened yet since the making of this video, but I already have a good guess on what this track is going to do. Probably shouldn't be on the schedule. Now, this is just based on the first race. Maybe in the future, maybe they'll be able to put on a better event. I don't know, but I don't know. When you think of street races, yeah, they're cool when you first think about them, but then look at the street races in IndyCar, and then look at Formula One. Are they really the most exciting races in the world? Not really. I mean, like I said, it's a cool concept, but I don't really think this is going to work great for a NASCAR event. I mean, they're already struggling with road courses, so providing a street course, we'll see what happens. As of right now, I don't think it should be on the schedule, but who knows? Maybe it will be a super exciting race and we'll think it's a good track. With that being said, the next one is another road course. We're going to get a few road courses here in just a second. Circuit of the Americas. Circuit of the Americas, I think, is a good racetrack overall. I'm going to put it slightly ahead of these two because I think it's just right off the mark of great. I think the Roval is slightly better because this is a world-renowned racetrack. It's a Formula One racetrack, and this is one of America's top series, NASCAR. So for NASCAR to come to a Formula One racetrack, which is a very important racetrack no matter who you ask, I think it deserves to be on the schedule all the time. And it's provided decent races. Last race we've had there, it was great until the last 10% of the race, but we cannot absolutely exclude the whole race because of the bad finish. I still think it's a good track. I still think it's one of the better road courses, so it needs to stay as a good track. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I hope I'm saying that right. I've heard so many different ways to say it. I think the Gilles is right, or the Gilles, something like that. Sorry. But Villeneuve, I've heard it as that or Villeneuve. Let me know in the comment section how you guys say it. I don't know how you're going to be able to do that, but try. But I am so excited if this track returns because this racetrack used to provide some great racing in the Nationwide Series. Some of the craziest finishes, some of the craziest stories came out of this track. And I think even crazier than Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I hope that it comes to the Cup Series schedule. I think it deserves a shot. If we're going to have any Canadian racetrack, this is the one that needs to come back on. I thought the racing was great. The finishes were very, very close for it being such a long racetrack. So if it does make a return, I'm hoping that the Cup Series provides a good show because I really think it's a good track to have on the schedule. The Daytona road course, that should never be on a NASCAR schedule. This is an endurance track and NASCAR is not really a super endurance type of race. Yes, they go a few hundred miles, but this racetrack is designed for one that goes 12 to 24 hours. That's why the Rolex 24 is so exciting. But when they did the NASCAR Cup Series race and Xfinity Series race here at the road course, it wasn't really that great. It's too big of a racetrack and not many spots of action or really passing that could truly happen here in this race. So I'm going to put it on should not be scheduled. I like the track for the Rolex 24 as well as IMSA, but not for NASCAR. Darlington Raceway, my man, you go right on up, or my lady, you may go up to the legendary track because this track has been there since the beginning and it provides great racing almost every single year. It seems to be just getting better and better. It used to already be a top 7 racetrack as it was, but now it's providing some of the best races of the season almost every single year. So how can you hate this track? It's so unique. I love that egg shape. I mean, just any track that has any different form from the others is already an A+ on their end. But the racing has been good. The track has so much history. It's a legendary track. It needs to be up there right with Daytona and Bristol. Dover Motor Speedway, I really don't have much to say about it. I think it's an okay track. It's a fast mile track and it's a cool little concrete track, but lately, it hasn't been the most exciting race in the world. I remember back then there used to be some chaotic stuff that would happen at the track. That's why they brought in the monster mascot, but now it's not really that scary anymore of a track. It's just fast. And fast is good, but it doesn't really stand out to me compared to other tracks. If I see it on the schedule, I'm like, oh, whoopee, but that's about it. Now, when it came to this next track, Eldora Speedway, oh my gosh, I love this track for the Truck Series. It was great. I think if they ever want to do a dirt race, they got to do it at Eldora. It just worked really, really well. I'm not going to put it above these other tracks because I do agree with Richard Petty to a sense that we should only have paved tracks on the schedule. If they decide not to bring a dirt track, I'm totally fine with that. But if they do bring a dirt track, it should be Eldora because if you look at it in the Truck Series, those races were fun. Every single time they were super entertaining. So at the very least, if they want to keep it in the Truck Series, I'm perfectly all right with that because Eldora just worked really well. I thought it was a good track. Homestead Miami Speedway, I think this is a great track, to be honest with you. As far as intermediate tracks go, it's very unique as well. And also the racing has been pretty entertaining at times. This most recent race, maybe not the most exciting because Kyle Larson just kicks ass at riding the high line of any type of racetrack. But there was a reason why it was the championship race. It was a very important track to NASCAR, and I still think it's an important track to this day, and it deserves a spot in the round of 8 because it is a great track and can sometimes put on some crazy races for the fans. Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, this is a legendary track if you're looking at all series, but let's be honest here. It's only okay for NASCAR. It just doesn't provide great racing. There's hardly any passing. I do love the idea of some people giving out, including Jeff Gordon, that, hey, we should only race at the Oval once every 4 years. That would definitely bring some prestige to the racetrack, but I know why they can't do that. It's just this track is so hard for NASCAR to master. It wasn't designed for stock cars. It was designed for IndyCar. So it's great that it is a crown jewel event when they were racing at the Oval, but at the same time, it wasn't really a super exciting race. So I can only put it at an okay track, and might as well put the road course even lower than that because the road course has been putting on some pretty bad races. Like, they haven't even been good. You know what? I don't even think it should be on the schedule. I gave it an opportunity. I thought it was going to be great, and it's just been a nightmare for both the races. So this road course was hated by Formula One. It's now hated by NASCAR. Maybe it will put on a good race here this coming when is it? August? Yeah, August, sorry. It will be around August when this track comes back. Hopefully it provides a good race, but out of the first 2 showings, don't count on it, Chief. Now, this is pretty interesting, but Iowa Speedway was actually one of the first racetracks I ever visited, and I'm over on the West Coast, so that's kind of really weird, but some of my family originates from Iowa. And also, this was the first track to wrap around the entire track the safer barriers that we see today. I thought that was just really cool. With that being said, this track should be on the schedule. It really should. The fact that they replaced it with Knoxville a couple years ago and they never really returned to it is a damn shame. When they kept saying, we need more short tracks, we need more short tracks. This was the track. It would have been perfect. It's a fun little track. It provided some decent racing. I think the only reason why they didn't consider it is because it's in the middle of nowhere. To be honest with you, there's just cornfields in every single corner you look at outside the racetrack. So there's not really much to do outside of it, and the amenities were pretty bare bone. But you know what? It was still a good track. I still think it deserves a spot on the schedule because it is a short track and it's well made. And I really think at the very least Xfinity Series should be racing on it. Kansas Speedway has now earned the reputation, I think, as a great track now. It has really done a good job in the last couple of years being one of the better intermediate tracks, even with the Gen 6 car. I just remember if it was going to be any type of intermediate track, I was praying it was going to be Kansas the next one up because it's always provided good racing. I don't know. I think I'm going to put it slightly above Homestead Miami Speedway just because I think it's provided some way cooler finishes most recently, and that's the only reason why, but it's a great track. Out of all the intermediate tracks, minus Charlotte, this is definitely one that needs to be a staple for many years to come in NASCAR. And now we have another fallen comrade, Kentucky Speedway. This track, I hated this track. I don't know what people think that was so great about this track. It wasn't that good. It really wasn't. Yeah, they had that good restart with Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch, but you tell me a good race at Kentucky. It doesn't exist. Now remember, Bruton Smith said that this race was going to be bigger than Daytona. Oh yeah, it was bigger than Daytona. The biggest piece of shit! And there's no other place to put Kentucky Speedway, and it should never exist. It should never have been on the schedule. There's way better mile-and-a-half tracks. Knoxville Raceway, this is an iconic racetrack for the dirt scene, but it should not have been on the schedule for NASCAR. You can definitely tell after so many laps it just becomes a one-lane racetrack, which kind of sucks. It was a cool concept. They wanted to bring a dirt track, and they thought Knoxville because it's one of the best racetracks for dirt racing in the United States. It just didn't work out. If you're going to pick a dirt track, pick Eldora. They've clearly shown that that track will work way better. Next up is Las Vegas Motor Speedway, one of my favorite tracks to attend, but I'm going to be honest, this is only an okay track. It really is. I still think it deserves a spot on the schedule because it's on the West Coast, but that's really the only reason why they keep it. It doesn't really provide great racing. I mean, we've had one good race here and there, but that's not really going to move it up to a good track or a great track. And I understand that. I mean, I love going to this event. If you're a fan in the West Coast, definitely consider going to Las Vegas. It might be a little pricier, but the Garage Pass is absolutely awesome. But I know that the racing overall for the fans is just okay. There's nothing spectacular for Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Lucas Oil Raceway, I'm actually really glad that they have this one back on the schedule, so I'm going to put it as a good track. I think if I was to pick out of these 6 racetracks on which one I would want to cup race, maybe I would pick Las Vegas Motor Speedway for biased reasons, but I know the most entertaining one would be Lucas Oil Raceway. I think it's great that the Truck Series have made the return to that, and I really think Xfinity Series and maybe even Cup Series should consider having races here in the future. I won't put it above any of these other ones, but I'm glad that's back on the schedule. It's a good track. It really is. Martinsville Superspeedway, though, is a legendary track. One of the first racetracks right there with Darlington. I almost want to put it at the very front. I'm going to put Daytona first and then Martinsville and Darlington because Martinsville has always provided great racing. Even when the race sucks, something exciting happens in the race. What's that? You didn't like the playoff race in 2022? Bam! Chastain right in the wall. Freaking crazy. I mean, how can you hate the paperclip? You really can't. It's fun. It just shows NASCAR's history just in that racetrack. So unique. Martinsville, legendary track. Michigan International Speedway is a pretty good track. I have nothing against this track. I do like the speed that it provides in the races, and also it definitely deserves a spot on the schedule just because a lot of the manufacturers are by that area. But I only put it in good just because when you think of a 2-mile racetrack, everyone talks about Auto Club over Michigan. From what I've seen, people like Auto Club just slightly a little bit more. So Auto Club will get the great track, and Michigan I'll just put at good. But still, I enjoy it on the schedule. The Mid-Ohio racetrack, I really don't got much to say about this track. It's okay. There's nothing that really stands out to this track. It reminds me of Canadian Tire, except Canadian Tire actually had decent finishes. Mid-Ohio, I can only think of Justin Marks' finish in the rain, and we can only really thank the rain for that. And then who was it that bumped someone out of the way? I think it was Justin Allgaier who bumped out Alex Tagliani or something like that. So that was an interesting finish, but other than that, this track doesn't really stand out as a road course. I mean, it's not going to beat Circuit of the Americas, the Roval. I really don't think it beats tracks like Sonoma or Watkins Glen, which we haven't even ranked yet. So it's at the bottom end of the okay tracks. If it got taken off the schedule as well, I really wouldn't notice. The Milwaukee Mile. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't really remember hardly any races here at this racetrack. So I'm just going to put it right here in the middle of okay. I'm happy it's back on the schedule, but at the same time, I don't remember races here. So don't get offended by me on this one. I just want to put it there. I'm just happy it's on the schedule. We're trying something new, so don't kill me in the comment section, please. Nashville Superspeedway is up, and I think this is a good track. I got nothing against this track. Maybe I'll put it, let's put it right behind Atlanta Motor Speedway. The only thing that kind of killed it for me a little bit was when NASCAR was talking about how the schedule was going to be wacky. It's going to be crazy. We don't know what's going to be coming onto the schedule. And then they threw Nashville as the first one. They're like, think of it. It's an intermediate racetrack, but it's slightly smaller and it's made out of concrete. Like, it really didn't stand out from the other tracks, but still, it provides some decent races. I'm glad they have it on the schedule, and Nashville seems like it's a great market for NASCAR, so I think it should stay on the schedule just by the fan base alone. It doesn't matter how the racetrack runs, I still think it's going to always stay there for many years to come just by how many people back up that racetrack. So, and they just said they sold out, so more reasons to like Nashville. Nazareth Speedway comes up next, and this is another track where I never saw an actual race before, even on television. Now, I remember playing this track on NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005, and I was like, wow, this is a pretty unique racetrack. Why don't they come back to this track? This track is great. Well, it's because it went the way of the dodo bird, and now it's just rubble. So you're never going to see this track again. With that being said, I thought it was an okay racetrack. No, you know what? I thought it was a good racetrack. It's very unique, and it was kind of a shorter racetrack, but had a lot of speed. Let's put it at okay. I'm sorry. I really can't decide on this track. I just want more unique looking racetracks. This was so unique, and unfortunately it just lost its spot due to the time that who was in charge. They wanted to just stay with these big racetracks, and unfortunately that bit them in the butt. So if Nazareth Speedway was still available, I really think NASCAR would try to get some races back here. New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Again, another okay track. I mean, to be honest, which races really stand out at New Hampshire? I mean, it's one of the shorter racetracks, and that shouldn't dock at any points by any means, but do you guys know any great finishes? Do you guys remember any like super crazy races? Yeah, you've seen some drivers get some upset victories or break some droughts that they've had for a very, very long time. And Robbie Gordon got his first win. But other than that, New Hampshire, it's just a mid-track. It really is. I think it deserves a spot on the schedule because of its location, but that's about it. North Wilkesboro Speedway. Now, people might be a little offended by this, and I truly understand why, but let me explain. I'm only going to put it as a great track instead of a legendary track. And the reason why is because it's been off the schedule for so long. I'm super excited that it's back on the schedule, even if it's an all-star race. I really do believe it needs a points-paying race because it did put on a very entertaining race in the truck series. Thank goodness it has that points-paying race. But at the same time, when you look at these legendary tracks, Daytona, Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol, they've been there for 64 plus years. And North Wilkesboro was there at the beginning, but it was gone in 1996. And in 27 years, they didn't race at it again. It needs to bring back a little bit of that legendary feel. Still though, I'm glad it's on the schedule. I still think they will provide great races here in the future. But for now, we'll just put it at great track and we'll see if it does get a points paying race. I think it will be back up in legendary track here soon, but I think it just lost that level for how long it was gone, even though it's not its fault. Phoenix Raceway. I think you guys want me to put this in the should not be scheduled, but it's still an okay track, but I don't know, man. I understand why they have it as a championship race. I mean, the amenities is so cool. It's a good experience for the fans, and the reason why they have it there is because nobody wants to visit Phoenix as it is because it's so damn hot. So they did really realize that they don't have any competition when it comes to hotels or anything for the championship race. But at the same time, Homestead was way more exciting than Phoenix. And Atlanta, I bet you, would put on more exciting races than Phoenix. It's just not a track that you see much passing. And for the championship winners, you kind of know who's going to win the championship with 100 laps to go. That's not really a good thing. So Phoenix is an okay track. I really don't think it deserves a championship race. And I think that's really killing its credibility as a track. Pocono Raceway, I think this is a good track. It should always stay on the schedule. I'm going to put it right slightly above these tracks here. I know the racing can be a little bit boring at times, but it's super unique. It's super fun of a racetrack. And even though it may not be the most mileage race, like it's not 500 miles anymore, it's still an endurance race. This track is very, very tough, and I can appreciate that from a racetrack. So maybe eventually at some point that it's going to provide some great racing just because the next gen car has been good at intermediate tracks. But at the same time, I'm not going to be super excited when it's coming up next, but I will be happy to see it on the schedule because, I mean, it has no turn 4. That's pretty cool. Portland International Raceway is an okay track. I think it put on a really good race here just most recently for the Xfinity Series, but I think we still need to see more time with it as we progress. So I'm going to put it right here. Maybe I'll put it above Phoenix Raceway just because we actually had an exciting race at Portland. It still hasn't stood out as a great road course for me yet. Some of the other road courses in front of it I still think are more exciting, but it's getting there. It's getting there. I would not be upset if it was added on to the Cup Series schedule. I really wouldn't. Road America, this one is going to upset people. It's an okay track. It's an okay track for me. I almost want to put it behind New Hampshire. I'm dead serious. It's just, here's the reason why I don't like it that much. I mean, at first the racing was crazy, but there were some other road courses that already put on more entertaining races. Like for the Xfinity Series, Road America was cool, but I thought Circuit Gilles Villeneuve was better. I really do. And then when it got a Cup Series race, it was a pretty boring race. There was one pass for the lead during the green flag. That was about it. The rest of the passes were either on pit stops or a caution. That was it. There was no other passing up front. And Sonoma already is that strategy road course track. I don't think we need two of them, especially when they're that close to each other. I'm sorry, Road America is only an okay track for me. I know I'm pissing off a lot of people with that, but that's honestly how I feel. Rockingham, North Carolina, another racetrack that got lost to greed. This track was definitely a good racetrack. I always enjoyed it, seeing it on the schedule when I was very young. It was great to see Daytona Superspeedway and then to get this fast 1 mile racetrack. Should have never lost a spot on the schedule. I really think it had a staple on the NASCAR schedule, and to see it just leave was absolutely shocking. I mean, its last race had a super exciting finish. It proved to everyone, you should have never left me. So it's in the middle of nowhere, so that does lose some value to it. Same thing with Iowa Speedway, but this track should stay on the schedule. It's been gone for a lot of years, so it's at the bottom end, but maybe, just maybe, we'll see it back on the schedule. Sonoma Raceway, love this track, but I know the truth. I know the truth. The races there are okay. They are absolutely okay. I almost want to put it below Phoenix Raceway just because it's all strategy on pit road. That's all that matters. And when they had the cautions at stage breaks, it absolutely destroyed the race. And even without the stage breaks, people are still a little upset with the track. So I get it. But at the very least, you should visit this track. It has really fun stuff going on outside the track. And it's your best opportunity to meet drivers. I'm telling you. Give Sonoma a try in person. It's one of those racetracks that you got to visit, not watch on TV. But most people are watching on TV, so I know it's only an okay track. Talladega Superspeedway. Oh, this wacky track needs to be legendary, baby. I mean, when you ask a casual person, what's a NASCAR track that doesn't watch NASCAR, they're going to say Talladega. Mostly thanks to Talladega Nights, but at the same time, it's the biggest racetrack. It's the most chaotic racetrack. It's got to be a legendary track. It's got to be up there with the greats like Daytona, Martinsville, and Darlington. I'll put it as the 5th one because there has been a lot of wreck fest there, and it doesn't hold nearly as much value as some of these other races because these other races have crown jewel events, or they just have a bigger fan base watching overall. But still, it's one of the greatest tracks on the schedule. It deserves to be a legendary track. And we have come up to the hemorrhoid in NASCAR's ass, the terrible racetrack that is Texas Motor Speedway. Kentucky Speedway tried to be like Texas Motor Speedway, and that's basically being poop. Actually, no, I'm going to cuss. It is shit. Absolute shit. It should have never existed. It took away North Wilkesboro from us, and the races somehow get worse and worse. They find ways to make the racetrack worse, and now it actually hurts drivers. No! It should never existed. Blow that sucker up, completely redesign it, and then blow it up again. I hate Texas Motor Speedway. And there's some people that say, well, Texas provides good racing. Dude, you are either drunk or you are a conspiracy theorist because there is no way you think Texas Motor Speedway is a great track. If that is the case, you think the 2013 Daytona 500 was one of the best Daytona 500s in NASCAR history, and you also think Sonoma is one of the most intense racetracks to watch on TV. You're out of your mind. Texas Motor Speedway should never exist. Get it off the schedule. Watkins Glen International, on the other hand, is one of the best road courses. I think it beats the Charlotte Roval, to be honest with you. I do like the Roval more. I will say that. But Watkins Glen, when you want to see a good old-fashioned road course NASCAR event, Watkins Glen just provides it. It really does. You get some of the road course ringers get victories there, like Marcus Ambrose won Pablo Montoya, and then you also had Robbie Gordon win a race there. It definitely gave drivers that don't get full-time opportunities to run well in this race. AJ Allmendinger could be another one. And it provides a lot of passing. It also has that strategy. It's just a great road course. If they move this one into the playoffs as well and switched it with the Charlotte Roval, I would not be offended by that either. I think Watkins Glen puts on great races every single time. And the last one here, I know I got 2 here, but it's Michigan International Speedway. We already see it's in the good track. Worldwide Technology Raceway, I think this is an okay track. There's just some things that have plagued it for the last few races, and it's just been simply just some chaoticness that kind of out of its control. You had technical problems, and it's called Worldwide Technology, so that's already a bad image. You had lightning delays. You had cars just losing their brakes left and right. A driver got injured. That's always going to hurt a track. But at the same time, I still think it deserves a spot on the schedule. I'm hoping here in the future we can get ourselves a decent race that doesn't get plagued by any delays or any problems, and then we can truly rank it. But for now, I'll put it slightly below Las Vegas and maybe even below Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Dover. I'm going to put it right here because as of right now, it really hasn't shown anything too exciting yet, but it hasn't gotten an opportunity to. So give it time. It still deserves a spot on the schedule, but it's only an okay track. And that is all the racetracks. I think overall, the legendary tracks, we got the right ones. This should not be scheduled and this should never existed. I think most people are going to be in agreement of those. But here in the middle, that's where the debate's truly going to spawn. So because of that, why don't you in the comment section let me know which track you disagree with me the most? Whether it's a track I praise too much or which track I gave too much grief for. Because I wonder which one people are going to get upset at me with. I wonder. But that is the end of today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now, don't worry. I'm not done making narrative videos. Do not worry about that. I'm just putting these in between because I need to find a little bit more enjoyment talking about NASCAR, because those do take a little bit of time. But I want to give you guys something entertaining, and I really enjoy making these. So yeah, if you want to see more of these, also let me know down in the comments section. Make sure to like and subscribe, and as always guys, you all take care.